Cutting for the net, upstairs, Bardown, goal. Don't love
What's up and welcome back to Bardown Talking Hockey episode number 170, presented by the Barroom Network. It is the home of everything related to the greatest league in the world, the NHL. My name is Vinnie Parisi, and I believe the New Jersey Devils are going to win the Stanley Cup. And this right here, this is Frankie Mueller, and he is the king of all beans. Frank, what up, what up?
What up, VP? How you doing?
Doing very, very good. Hockey is upon us. Are you so excited?
I am excited. I'm excited about your background, too. I like it.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm actually very much looking forward to seeing what else I can come up with. Oh, this was very much impromptu. Took 2 seconds to put it up before we went live. So I'm actually excited to see what more I can put into it a little bit later on.
Okay, I'm excited. The possibilities are endless.
The possibilities are endless. Frank, first of all, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm in a little bit of a different scenery.
Very good, very good. You're looking good, sounding good. I'm trying to get this freaking podcast post on Twitter. I can't really
He's
get
stalling.
it to work right now.
That's how
I
you
don't
know
why it's not working. But yeah, Frank, we have a shit ton of shit to get into. Happy Friday. I know me and Skylar are going to be spending some time together tomorrow as the Northern Illinois Huskies are going to take on the Buffalo Bulls. We'll talk a little bit more about that in the third period. But Frank, we got some business to get to in period number one. Frank, welcome to period one. Last week, we predicted all things Atlantic Division. Now we're going to send it on over to the other ocean that has an NHL division named after it. We're going to talk about the Pacific Division.
Yeah.
Frank, the Pacific Division is absolutely freaking loaded. I was looking through, and I'm like, this has a case for the best division in the NHL. I think there's one division that is clearly the worst, and then I think the other three are all in competition for the best.
You think the Central's the worst?
No. I think the Metropolitan Division's the worst.
Really?
I think outside of the three teams that we'll probably agree on, and then there's a fourth that I think might be good, but like I think the division is mostly arse, and the Central Division has like every team is good except one.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm bullish on the Central actually, but the Pacific Division to me is right there with the Atlantic that we talked about last week as the best.
Okay.
I'd like to know what your thoughts are on all these teams. Let's kind of go in reverse order than we did last week. Last week we kind of started with the teams at the top. Let's kind of start with the teams at the bottom a little bit. Well, I'm talking about the Calgary Flames.
Okay.
Frank, what do you like about the Calgary Flames? Give me a player to watch, strengths, weaknesses, just all around your thoughts on the Calgary Flames.
And, this is the team that no one knows if they're rebuilding or what's going on with this organization. It's an organization I strongly believe needs to be ripped down and built up from scratch if they want to have any success in the future. And, hey, maybe they prove me wrong this year, but I doubt it. The one player I want to highlight, and I talked about this kid a couple of weeks ago, is Dustin Wolf, right? He'll be getting the starting role as the number one goalie in Calgary this season to start the year. I think this kid has a lot of promise in the NHL, and I'm excited to see him start the year in the number one goaltender role, right? Over the years with Calgary, we've seen the same thing in net over and over, Jacob Markstrom or Dan Vladar, and Dan Vladar will be the backup, obviously, to Dustin Wolf, but it's nice to see a fresh face in net, and I know he hasn't been good in the games he's played with Calgary, but, I think this name's going to be brought up quite a lot this season, more than just from Calgary broadcasts. I think we're going to be talking about him a lot. As far as strength and weaknesses go for the Calgary Flames, their defensive prospect pool is very deep. I think they're doing very well when it comes to developing defensemen in their organization. So in a few years, I think they're really going to flourish on the blue line. Um, they also got talented pieces as a part of this lineup as well. But that kind of goes hand in hand with their weaknesses because those talented pieces, they don't perform well together. Nothing clicks when it comes to the Calgary Flames, right? You got Jonathan Huberdeau, Kadri, but they just don't perform like they should or how they performed on other teams. There's just no chemistry whatsoever, and they refuse to rebuild. They're just wasting time because I don't think they can make the postseason without a full-on rebuild or even contend for the cup.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on the Calgary Flames. I'm kind of low on them. I think Backlund, Kadri, Huberdeau, they're all good players. Anthony Mantha's there now. Huberdeau could be like a 100-point guy. We've seen it in the past. I'm just not sure if those days are in the past because of the fact that, things just haven't gone that well for him in Calgary since being traded for Matthew Tkachuk, who went to Florida and continued everything he was doing in Calgary. They have Yegor Sharangovich, who scored 30 goals last year. Really good player. He'll probably come in this year and have a really, really good year as well. I'm looking at their defense. I like Uyghur. They got Jake Frank Bean. They got Kevin Ball from the Devils from the Jonathan Markstrom trade. Jonathan Markstrom. Frickin' Jacob Markstrom. I don't see this team competing. They've sold off a lot of pieces. They got rid of Tyler Toffoli and Markstrom, and Tkachuk is gone. We know about Johnny Gaudreau and, what happened recently, but also him leaving and not being there anymore. Like, it's a tough situation for Calgary. I think they probably are trending towards being one of the lesser teams in the NHL. I'm not sure they're going to be bad enough to be thinking about drawing a blank on his name now. I'm the king of this kid. Boston College. No, I think they will be in contention. Right. I think they will be in contention for Gavin McKenna. And he's a Canadian boy. I think playing for the Calgary Flames would be good for someone like that. It's James Higgins. I'm not sure they're going to be quite that bad, but I actually think they could be in a world where Anaheim, San Jose, Seattle, they all take a step forward. Calgary is the only team taking steps back in this division is kind of how I feel. There's another team I see taking a step back, but not lottery back. But yeah, you got a player on the team to look out for this year?
Yeah, the Dustin Wolf.
Yeah.
I kind of, touched on him a little bit.
That's right. So for me, if I'm watching the Calgary Flames this year, you got to be watching Huberdeau. Right? Like if he comes out and he has one of those years where we know he can have playing with top players, Daily Faceoff is a great website. These lines are kind of, based on practice and projected off-season numbers and stuff like that. This website is accurate once the season begins because it just takes what the lines actually are and puts them on there. But for right now, they have Huberdeau projected on the third line, playing with Martin Popsel and Anthony Mantha. He's not even in the top six, playing with one of Backlund or Kadri, who are supposed to be their top two centers. So it's going to be interesting. I think Huberdeau's the player to watch. If he doesn't have a good year, this team is not going to be very good. I feel bad saying it, but that's just kind of how I feel. The Battle of Alberta is better when both teams are really good. I still think Calgary has enough pieces to make the Battle of Alberta intense and worth watching. Hockey night in Canada on Saturday nights. I can't wait for the Battle of Alberta. I'll be locked in at any other year when it's the Battle of Alberta. But it doesn't have that wow, both of these teams can make it to the Stanley Cup final anymore, which it did 2 years ago.
I think they're stuck in the middle right now, to be honest with you.
You don't think they're even below the middle?
No, but what I mean is I don't think they could be lottery bid with the team they have with these pieces. Right? It was kind of like with the Blackhawks when they had Patrick Kane. I mean, he was making it where it was hard for them to get bad. But you have a lot of those players on the team that are going to help you out to not be number one overall bad. They need to rip it down, in my opinion.
Now, out of all the teams that we might pick to come in last place or second to last place in a division, do the Flames have the highest ceiling, like the most likely to like surprise and maybe be a bubble team?
Yeah, I mean, I would say so. There's a couple other teams I think that could be surprising this year, but whenever you got as much, the Flames got a lot more talent than people think. Just because they were bad, I mean, they got guys that could produce. I mean, Huberto was a 100-point player, so I mean, can they surprise at any point? Yeah, they can. I just don't see it.
I'm with you. I'm with you. They have, and their prospect pool isn't terrible.
No, their
They,
defensive prospect pool is really good.
it's really good, and they already have Connor Zary playing in the NHL. We'll see if they're able to develop Kevin Ball into something that the Devils really weren't able to get much out of. But I'm not unexcited about the Flames' future. It's just right now, it's kind of like blah.
I know.
All right, Frank, we're going to move on a little bit. We're going to go into the northwest portion of the United States of America and talk about the NHL's newest team that was very disappointing last year after being surprisingly good the year before, the Seattle Kraken. Give me your thoughts on the Seattle Kraken. Player to watch, strengths and weaknesses, all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, for a team that upset the Avalanche a couple or two postseasons ago, this team's really become, in my opinion, the definition of an expansion team. Now, I'm not going to rule out anything because they have made some changes. One of the players I want to highlight is a player coming in for the first time in this organization, Brandon Montour, right? Nice acquisition for the Seattle Kraken. Brandon Montour is a great defenseman to have. You compare him with like Vince Dunn or somebody on the power play that should help their scoring on the power play a little bit more. The team was bottom 5 in scoring last season. And Montour, he's an offensive defenseman that should improve the defense and help the Kraken capitalize on scoring opportunities. So I think this is going to be a fun team to watch as the Kraken's team. They basically got a complete near makeover for the upcoming season. And part of that, and it's going to maybe seem funny, but I'm being genuinely seriously when I say this. I think their strength is having Dan Biles back at the head coaching position in the NHL and as their head coach. I think this is going to be a bounce back year for Bilesma as head coach. I think most people are going to overlook him because of how bad he was at the end of his last coaching run in the NHL. But I think the pieces they have on offense and defense are enough to get the job done. I think Grubauer and Joey Decord can hold the fort down and make this a very interesting season for the Seattle Kraken. Their weakness, it's the fear of the unknown, right? There are a lot of question marks coming into the season for the Seattle Kraken. New players, new coaching staff, trying to get back to the postseason, missed the postseason by 17 points this past year. In my opinion, the Seattle Kraken, they're either going to perform out of their minds this year or even have a worse season than they did last year. That's what you get out of this team.
100%. I think it's a team that could be the definition of mid. I think they could be bad, and I think they could be good too. Like to me, they are like the biggest unknown in the Pacific Division, even more than Calgary. Because I look at the lineup and I see, right now they're projected to have Beniers, Stevenson, Yanni Gourde, and Shane Wright as their 4 centers. Right. And Shane Wright was awesome in the AHL. He hasn't been able to put it together in the NHL. And you wonder if he's just a career AHL star, which those exist. But, you look on the wings and you see Jared McCann and Oliver Bjorkstrand, and Burakovsky's been good in the NHL. We like Brandon Tanev. Eberle, who's like a wily vet who could score a crap ton of goals, is on the 4th line. I look at the defense and I see a top 4 that includes Alexiak, Vince Dunn, Adam Larson, and Brandon Montour. And I'm like, that's a pretty good top 4. There's not like a Norris guy on there by any means, like someone you need to anchor a blue line to win the Stanley Cup, but like to be a playoff team. And then I look at the goaltending. You see Grubauer and Decord the year they had last year, especially Decord. You could see this team like possibly competing. I like the Chandler Stevenson acquisition. Did they overpay him? Yeah, you could probably say they overpaid him a touch. But like that's what happens in free agency. Every guy who signs in free agency is signed to about $1 or $2 million more than what they actually deserve. But Seattle, they want to be competitive. They want to grow this fan base. They're not going to be Vegas, right? Like Vegas's infrastructure from the start with the Golden Misfits was far and away better. Seattle took a little bit of a different approach, and now I think they're going to be a really good team. And my player to watch this year is Chandler Stevenson. If he can come in and kind of recreate the year he had last year with Vegas as their, you can argue he was their number 3 center, but he was getting first line minutes. It depended on the night, because Jack Eichel has turned into one of the best two-way centers in the NHL. He's like he kind of, in a lot of ways, he's got a better shot than Nico Hischier, but like they're a very similar style of player. That Jonathan Taves type, but with like a good shot, maybe a little bit better playmaking ability too for Eichel. But, when I look at the way Vegas was built down the middle last year with William Karlsson and Stevenson with Eichel, any one of those 3 guys could anchor the top line on any given night. Well, now Stevenson's probably going to have even a more elevated role this year with Seattle, because Benier's sophomore slump, the definition of sophomore slump. He won the Calder Trophy 2 years ago. Then last year he was just okay. But they signed him long-term to a decent contract. I think it was just a tick over $7 million. That's saying, hey, we believe you're a top 6 center in the NHL by giving you all that money. So let's go out there and have a bounce-back year. And part of me does think the Kraken will. I'm just not sure they're going to be able to be a playoff team because of how deep the Pacific Division is overall. And they don't have... you look at the other teams. I'm looking at the list of teams in the Pacific Division. Edmonton has multiple superstar forwards. Vancouver has multiple superstar forwards. Same thing with Vegas. Even the Kings, to an extent, have superstar forwards. And then Anaheim have guys, and San Jose both have guys that could become superstar forwards. We'll get to all those teams in a minute. But Seattle, I don't see a 100-point guy anywhere in that line.
I agree with that. Yeah, 100%. I don't see a 100-point guy either.
So then we'll move on to one of those teams that we were just kind of mentioning, the San Jose Sharks. They don't have any guys that are proven of being 100-point guys. But I look at this team and I'm like, well, in 3 years, there could be a couple guys in this lineup that, scream 100-point player at you, and that they have the making of a team that could build into a contender, like a legitimate contender. Obviously, over the summer, they drafted Macklin Celebrini first overall out of Boston University, and they signed Will Smith, who is their top prospect before the draft. He was the 4th overall pick in 2023, the Bedard draft, and he went to Boston College last year and had just a magnificent year on the best line, one of the best lines college hockey has ever seen. They brought in Wenberg in free agency. They brought in Tyler Toffoli in free agency, Barclay Goodrow as well. And then you look on defense and Mario Ferraro's there. They made the trade to get Cody Ceci and took advantage of Edmonton Oilers cap issues, and they still have Mark-Edouard Vlasic. And then William Eklund, who's probably their number 3 young guy behind Smith and Celebrini. Just an awesome, awesome player. First-round pick. Can Bo dangle in a freaking phone booth. And now he's got actual dudes to play with this year. I like this San Jose organization. Now, I went from hating them, not hating them like my love, like what they have. I went from hating it. I thought they were the worst off team 6 months ago. I was like, I don't know how San Jose is going to rebuild this thing. It's going to take a long time. And boy, did they prove me wrong. And the biggest acquisition that they made is Yaroslav Askarov, the goaltender. Frank, I'll turn it over to you now on San Jose. What are your thoughts on everything we've been touching on?
This is an interesting team. They made some interesting moves this offseason to really bring in some added talent to help develop these young guys on the team. The guy I'm going to touch on is Yaroslav Askarov. He's the most talked about goalie prospect in the NHL at this point. I want to keep an eye on him and see if you can notice any flashes of greatness on this team. They're still going to be, I think, a bad team. So if we could, whatever we could get out of him and, the different things we see from him, it's going to be interesting. He gets an opportunity here in San Jose to be the number 1 and really begin his NHL career in that more prominent role. This is the year that really kicks everything off. I don't know if things will be pretty when it comes to his game, but expectations are so high for this kid for the entirety of his career that I'm excited to watch it. I'm excited to really see a jump start because we really haven't seen it yet when he was with the Nashville Predators. The strengths I want to touch on is I think, and not every team is like this, they have the perfect veteran to rookie ratio in San Jose, right? They got Logan Couture, Mikael Granlund, newly acquired Tyler Toffoli, Cody Cece, right? We're talking about guys who've been in the league 10 plus years, where you got tons of veterans, but they go with players like Macklin Celebrini, Will Smith, William Eklund. Like, I like what the Sharks are building. It's a perfect ratio. It kind of reminds me the way the Blackhawks are doing things too with their veteran to rookie ratio, right? Not every rebuilding team has done that. There are rebuilding teams that I look at, like look at the Anaheim Ducks. We're going to touch on them. They have way more rookies than they do vets. It's not an even right down the middle, right? They need help developing these guys a little bit. But so there's only a couple teams in the NHL that are really, really doing this type of thing. And I agree with you. I love what they're building in San Jose. Their weakness comes, there's a lot of inconsistencies that come with this team, right? And that's just part of the rebuilding a franchise from the ground up. That's going to happen. You could look great in one game, and I'm sure they will look great in one game. They might win 4-1. They might have a nice victory, but then you might get blown out and let up 10 goals in back-to-back games. They did that last year. They let up 10 goals in back-to-back games, right? But that's the price you pay when you're rebuilding a franchise. It's really nothing against the Sharks, but it's just part of the growing pains. And I think the inconsistencies ultimately what's going to kill them this year, and obviously not make them a playoff team.
100%. Listen, the only team, I'm biased, the only team I think that has more points, like a bigger point jump this year from last year than the Sharks is the Devils. I think the Devils had 83 points last year. I could easily see them having like 103, 104 this year. That's a 20-point jump. I think San Jose makes a 15 to 16-point jump this year, which won't make them a playoff team, but I really, the difference between San Jose and like the Blackhawks, let's say, and we'll preview the Blackhawks next week. But I think San Jose's first year with Celebrini is going to be better than the Blackhawks' first year with Bedard. They just have more. Now, the Blackhawks might be better than San Jose right now, but they're a year ahead. I love what San Jose has done. Will Smith is my guy I'm touching on. Obviously, I'm a little biased towards that Boston College team, and I probably will be forever. But Will Smith is unbelievable. The stuff that he can do, and he's been dominating so far. He's looked good in training camp. Now that the NHL guys are there, making it a little bit more difficult. It's not just the prospects anymore. Will Smith hasn't missed a beat. I kind of think Will Smith and Macklin Celebrini might take Calder Trophy votes away from each other a little bit this year. I'm not predicting that one of them wins it, even if they're the two rookie leading scorers, which they very well could be the two rookie leading scorers. I know there's Michkov in the conversation, and he's a year older, so he'll have that extra year of bulking up and being physically ready. I know the fact that Logan Stankoven is considered a rookie. He didn't play enough games last year to not be Calder eligible this year. That makes it really hard, in my opinion, to bet against anybody else to win the Calder Trophy because he's got like 30-something games under his belt, and he was dominant in the playoffs. So that's like my early favorite because of that fact. But like this team is just loaded with talent. And last year, they were like a snooze fest. Unless it was the quote-unquote Celebrini Bowl when they were playing the Blackhawks or the Blue Jackets or the Habs, and like it was like, oh, one of these teams might get Celebrini, so let's make it a story this week. Other than that, they were kind of like a snooze fest. This year, I might throw them on any opportunity I can. Like if nothing else is going on, I'm not busy, I'm not watching the Devils, whatever other things. The Sharks are going on. They are going to be so entertaining, and I can't wait for the season to start for them. They're top 5 most exciting team coming into the year, in my opinion.
They're going to be fun to watch.
Another team that should be fun to watch, also loaded with young talent, as you touched on, the Anaheim Ducks. The Mighty Ducks of Anaheim they got a new look. They're wearing the all oranges. I think their new uniforms are so sick.
So do I.
I'm not normally an all orange guy, but the way that they have done it, that logo is sick, nasty. The jerseys are sick. I love the pants. I mean, the fact that their pants are orange too, I wasn't expecting that. And they're so cool. So they still got Zegras. They didn't trade him. Cutter Gauthier was dominant in their rookie tournament that they had last week. Probably even more dominant than, say, a Celebrini. But like he's got that a year older mentality, and but I just really think this guy is unbelievable, and he's going to be that kind of Matthew Tkachuk type leader on their team. Leo Carlsson might be the most skilled player on the team. We'll see if they move on from Gibson at some point. I love that they named Radko Gudas the captain. I mean, what a move that was. You don't normally see like these big burly defensemen be named the captain over like some of the skilled guys, but I think that's exactly what Anaheim needs, because you touched on the leadership there a little bit. And really quick, one thing I wanted to mention with San Jose, Celebrini living with Joe Thornton and Will Smith living with Patrick Marleau this season is some of the coolest things I've ever seen. And Mike Greer's their GM, just some Sharks legends. That will help them. That will help them. Marleau and Thornton being as involved as they are, especially with their two young guns. Okay, side note, back to Anaheim. I think they're going to be fun to watch too, and I'm excited to see what they got going down. I'll just jump into my Duck player to watch. I'm going to choose Troy Terry. Troy Terry 2 years ago had 38 goals. This last year he had 20. 20 still amazing. I think if you fall back to 20 goals, that's how you know you're a really good player and could probably bounce back again. Because 20 goals is still like you're a middle six NHL player if you're tucking in 20 pucks a season. I like Anaheim's infrastructure. I'm not sure where they're going to be able to take it this year. They're kind of one of those teams in the Pacific Division where, like, I could see them coming in last. I could see them coming in fifth. Basically, that's how I feel about the four teams we've talked about, including Anaheim. I could see any one of those teams coming in last, and I could see any one of those four coming in fifth behind the big four that we'll get to in a minute. But what do you got on Anaheim?
Yeah, they're just one of those bottom of the barrel teams. They have a lot of fun guys. They're slowly getting better. They still have a lot of work to be done. But yeah, I mean, that's just it. I think they just have a lot of fun guys that could be entertaining to watch. This is someone we talk about a lot on this podcast, but I want to touch on Cutter Gauthier. Made his debut with Anaheim last season after leaving the Flyers. Got 1 assist in his first ever NHL game. The Ducks are banking on the fact that he could play a huge role in this young Ducks core, and I think he can, right? There's a lot of young guys here, but I strongly believe he is one of the best young guys on this Ducks team. He could very well be the best player on this team one day, depending on, how Troy Terry plays out or Trevor Zegras. I still don't even know if Trevor Zegras belongs in Anaheim, but that's a story for a different day. And he very well could also contend for the Calder Trophy this season. But like we always talk about, there's a lot of guys this season that could contend for it. It's going to be tough. It's not going to be as straightforward as, Bedard was. And that really, I mean, there were still a couple guys who contended for Bedard too. But at the end of the day, you knew Bedard was going to win it. I think Michkov's going to win the Calder. But, Cutter Gauthier could be one of those guys that contend for it. And I can't wait to watch him for one full season on the team. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. The strengths for this team, they have so much potential for growth. If and when these players hit, they're going to be a dangerous team, right? They don't have any lines necessarily right now that wow you when you look at them, but they do have players that you look on this team and you're like, man, I wish I had these players on my team that I could just sneak in a top 6 or a bottom 6 role and put them with some of my players on my team. I'm sure there's players you'd love to, slot in to play with the Devils the Devils and stuff like that. I think their goaltending is their biggest weakness, right? Lucas Dostal, Jonathan Gibson. It's rough with the team you're putting out in front of them, right? They don't have great defense either, which when you put those two together, it's a recipe for disaster. But what this team is showing me from the roster and, the moves they made is that they just want their young guys, their rookies, to go out there, have as much fun as they can, because they're not ready to be competitive with their defensive core and goaltending this year. So it's just going to be one of those years where they're a bad team.
I hope not. I really hope that they are the 5th place team in this division. I really, really do. I don't think there's a player in the NHL, or maybe not a player, because there are guys that are borderline AHLers, borderline NHLers that obviously want to have impactful years so they can make a really good living in their life. But I don't think there's a star that has more pressure on them this year than Zegras. Because
he belongs there, man.
If he has a mid-year, you're just going to start to wonder, is this Zegras just a 50, 60 point guy? I remember that complete fool, Joey Parisi, when we first started this podcast, tried to claim that Trevor Zegras would be in the Jack Hughes conversation for best young player in the league. And I literally laughed in his face. Like, I straight up ha ha and pointed at him. And like, now, like, give me a break.
I think this is the Trevor Zegras we get. He'll be the guy that's exciting that could do the Michigan or, just pull off those crazy moves during a game. But I don't think he'll ever be that guy. I
Can you
think
think
that,
of a comp?
like a comparison.
Yeah, like a guy who was just so supremely skilled and like the points just weren't as like I guess Michael Grabner comes to mind. Like he scored 25, 30 goals a season, but like he never had more than like 50 points.
I don't know.
And like all his goals were pretty.
Because I
Just
think Trevor Zegras, he's got like his skill for prettiness is like near the top. Like
it's like Pavel Datsuk
yeah,
level.
I
Yeah.
swear to God, I was thinking Datsuk in my head. But
100 because the hands.
I'm not going
The
to say that.
hands. When you think of the hands, you think of like Datsuk, Kane,
But it's not a comparison because I'll never do what Datsuk did offensively.
and defensively.
Right. So it's like there's really no compare. He's just a fun player to watch that's exciting, but he's never going to be that 80, 90 point guy. It's not going to happen. I mean, what you see is what you get. And I think he's got a better home outside of Anaheim, to be honest with you. I think his
I
career
hope he gets an
excels.
180 point season. Maybe not in Anaheim, but like, come on, man.
Get him,
I
if
hope
he leaves Anaheim, I think he's better off. I do. I think he needs to go
it's
to
fair.
he's playing with so many rookies, and like, dude, he needs to be developed. Like, he's not. I mean, how many years is this in the league for him now?
He's been on the cover of NHL.
No, is this like his 6th year? Like, eventually.
He was drafted 10th overall in the Hughes draft.
Okay, so how many years is that?
2019, 2020,
Almost
21,
6.
22. Yeah.
We're going on 6 or 7. Come on.
Yeah. He went back to college for an extra year. Like, Jack came right into the league.
We need to
But-
develop other guys like Troy Terry or Cutter Gauthier. Like, we got to get on this. Get him
Yeah.
out of there. Get him out of there.
We shall see. The other team in Southern California, Frank, the Los Angeles Kings. I'll let you go first on them.
Every year we talk about the Kings. This is always a team I'm unsure about coming into the season. I like to call this the hovering team, VP. This is a team that hovers around and hangs. They just never seem to make moves in the offseason to take that next step. I want to talk about Quentin Byfield. He's a guy that's taken the next step, right? This is a kid who started to show himself doing so last season. In his first full season, he played 80 games with the Kings last year, missed 2 games. He was a 20-goal guy, set career highs in goals, points, assists. And right, we see this all the time with young players who have a breakout season the year prior. They're poised to come out back and better than ever the season after. And I think we're going to see that from Byfield this year. I think anything less than 60 points would be a disappointing year. Horrendous year for Byfield. I think he's going to soar. I think he's going to be great. He's a clear piece of their core for the future, and he's going to be a lot of fun to watch. Their special teams has been their biggest strength. Absolutely. They're middle of the pack on the power play, which is fine. You don't have to be top 5, top 10. They're like right there, 13, 14 on the power play. Their penalty kill, number 2 last year, 84.6%. These are both things you want to see when you continue over and carry on to the next season. Look how good the Edmonton Oilers power play and penalty kill was in the postseason. Carried them to the Stanley Cup, 1 win away. This is the stuff you want to see from a team. And they got talent. So when you mix that with their special teams, really good. It's always a huge factor to success. But the thing is, when you look at this Los Angeles Kings team, is they lack that one elite talent on the team, right? Last year, Adrian Kempe led the team with 75 points, followed by Fiala with 73 points. And for a team that made the postseason with 99 points, that type of production is not going to carry you through the gauntlet of 4 rounds of the postseason. You might get some overproduction here and there. You might win a round because Kempe, Fiala, these guys, Kopitar, they were great. But it isn't enough to carry you through the postseason and win 4 rounds to win the Stanley Cup. That's why I refer to them as the hovering team. They're always in the mix when I think maybe they're not going to be. They're always there, but they never make the big offensive or offseason move to take that jump. And that's what you get for the Kings. They're like the one hovering team.
I think they're the best boring team in the NHL.
And
because Kopitar used to be like an offensive superstar.
yeah,
But he's just, he's a little older. He wasn't even one of the 2 leading scorers last year. Obviously, Kempe and Fiala. I think Fiala got off to a bad start last year and just got really hot in the second half, and that's why he would even reach the 70-point total. If he plays the whole season on that kind of pace, he could be an 80, 90-point guy. He was with the Wild. Really good player. Love Kempe, Kopitar, obviously Alex Laferriere on the first line playing with Kopitar and Kempe. He had a good year last year. It's a team of a bunch of like really good defensive players too. Quentin Byfield's good defensively. Philip Denault is amongst the best defensively. Warren Fogle played with Brindamore and Carolina. They know how to defend, and he's going to take some of that with him, I assume. I like Turcotte on the fourth line. Hopefully this is his chance to like become a full-time NHL player. You look on defense, they put Mikey Anderson with Drew Doughty, so they really believe in him at this point. And then they traded for Vladislav Gavrikov 2 years ago, and he's been a solid piece on their blue line. They have Joel Edmondson now, Brant Clark they've developed. Their power play should be pretty good, because there's not one guy that the whole thing goes through, and I think that'll just be a really good team. They'll be a really good team. I don't think they can make it through the playoffs because I don't think the firepower to like have a game breaker in the playoffs is there. But I do like what I've seen from like these guys defensively, and they'll win a lot of 2-1 hockey games this season. My guy to watch is Kevin Fiala, who I believe could be like a high-end offensive player, but is he high-end enough to be like a team's number one go-to offensive guy? We will see. Frank, your favorite team in the division, the Vegas Golden Knights. I'll let you kick it off with them.
they feel like a shoo-in every year to make the playoffs, no matter who's injured, what the case may be. It wouldn't be playoff hockey without the Vegas Golden Knights. It's just the norm around here, right? Guy I want to touch on, Tomas Hertl. I think a lot of people are going to overlook Hertl this year. He's limited to only 54 games last season, played in just 6 games in the regular season for the Golden Knights. He was terrible, absolutely terrible in the 7 games he played in the postseason. Production wasn't there. However, a full season with the Golden Knights, if everyone could stay healthy, he will be a lethal component on this team. He's going to center the second line. He should be on the top line power play with Eichel and Stone. That, like, literally, if the pieces fall in place, there's no better year to get Hertl back to like his 30-goal season mark or whatever and make everyone forget how he performed last year when he wasn't 100% because he was injured. There's no better year to make that happen than this year. Keep an eye on Tomas Hertl. I think he's going to be that X factor this year for Vegas. And people are going to be like, wow, he wasn't like this last year. Well, yeah, because he wasn't healthy. But I think this is a bounce back year for Tomas Hertl. Some strengths. Obviously, their biggest strength is their depth and their experience. This is a team with very few players who are inexperienced. The team is built around players who've been there, done that. Combine that with making the postseason every year of their existence except one, huge advantage they take into the season every year. They know how to win. Their weakness, they get injured a lot. They're injury prone. Their age of their players are getting older, right? Like I said, this team is very experienced, but they're all getting up there in age, right? And the team never finds ways to stay healthy during the regular season. And then come the playoffs, right? Take Stone off long-term injured reserve. They go on whatever, win the cup, make long postseason runs because they just get healthy in time for the postseason. And hey, maybe that's their goal here. And maybe they're going to use that to their advantage. But if they want to win this division, they got to stay healthy. I think this team healthy is one of the best teams in the NHL, no doubt about it.
I think Vegas is very good. I think they have a chance to be a cup contender again. Like, their strength is that they're the Vegas Golden Knights. I think they could really go on a run if they're healthy. I thought they would going to go on a run last year after the big trade deadline that they had getting Hertl. They in the offseason, they added Olofsson, Alexander Holtz from the New Jersey Devils. I think he'll play with William Karlsson, a countryman, and maybe find some chemistry and start scoring goals on the regular in the NHL. And Frank, people love this Pavel Dorofeyev. Like, he is their top prospect, and he's coming into this year with like significant expectations on him to be like a top producing player. He might be a guy that people draft like in fantasy really late and turns out to be like a 60, 70 point guy, especially if the projection of him playing with Hertl and Stone is correct. We will see, but I like the makeup of this Vegas team. When they're healthy, their veterans are so good. They're so good down the middle. Jack Eichel, Tomas Hertl, William Karlsson, Nicholas Watt. It's hard to find a top 4 center quad in the NHL. And we'll see these wingers with Barbashev being there. He's so good. My player to watch is Noah Hannafin. They brought him in last year at the trade deadline, and he really could be the number 1 defenseman on the team this year. I know they got Pietrangelo. He wasn't that good when he played last year, and Theodore's there, and I like McNabb. Hagen, Whitecloud are Stanley Cup champions. It's a really good defense unit overall, and I like Aiden Hill as a goaltender. I don't know if they're going to want to use Ilya Samsonov as much as that they're probably going to have to this season with the way the NHL works with goalies and backup goalies. But, Logan Thompson moved on. So I think it's going to be a lot on Aiden Hill. So we'll see if they're able to get it done. I do think they're going to be a really good team, though, and no one's going to want to play them once the playoffs begin, if they make it, which they probably will. Frank, the Vancouver Canucks.
Yep, won the Pacific Division last year due to the Oilers' slow start. Second round of the postseason, they ran into the Edmonton Oilers, who they took to 7 games. So it's a very young team with a lot of promising talent. Jake DeBrusk comes into this year for the Vancouver Canucks after spending 7 years with the Boston Bruins. It's going to help strengthen the Canucks' top 6 forward group. You're getting a 20-goal scorer who could realistically set career highs in basically every stat this year for himself. He's also a physical body, comes with 7 years of playoff experience. And maybe that, if they would have had something like that last year, maybe they could have got past the Oilers in Game 7. You don't know, right? I think he could have a very solid year for the Vancouver Canucks. Their strength is they have a very talented young core. They have a very potent power play, finished 12th in the league last year. They are a very fast team, which I think is really important in the modern day era of hockey. Their weakness is I don't love their bottom 6. They're very inexperienced. They don't have that it factor down in the bottom 6, which means you leave it mostly up to your players in the top 6. I think they need better depth on the team. I do.
I kind of do. Like, I look at their bottom 6 and I see Connor Garland, who was with Arizona and scored a crap ton of goals, and Dakota Joshua had 17 goals last year. Can he repeat that this year? I don't know. My thoughts and prayers with him. He did announce he has testicular cancer and he might miss a little bit of time. So hopefully he's able to kind of get healthy and be back in the NHL in short order. And he put out a nice message reminding men to go out there and, get that stuff tested out because it is dangerous. It is important. So shout out to Dakota Joshua. I love the Danton Heinen ad too. But I think the Bruins fans voted him the 11th man award last year, or whatever they call it. 7th man. I forget what the Bruins fans, they vote. It's like the guy who came back and had a good year like that. Maybe it's something like that. And then Pia Suter was really good with the Blackhawks and the Red Wings over the course of his career. So I don't know. I'm a little more optimistic about Vancouver. I think they're one of the best teams in the NHL. I look at that top line with Höglander, Miller, and Besser, and I'm like, wow, Elias Pettersson, he's not even considered the number 1 center right now because he kind of fell off after signing his contract last year. But they're just going to throw Sprong and DeBrusk on his wings, and they're really good players. So we'll see if he's able to bounce back. And then I look at the D, and I see Quinn Hughes leading, a bunch of really good players. Tyler Myers, Derek Forbert, Carson Soucy, and Philip Hronik specifically. Quinn Hughes, though, is so dynamic. He's one of the best offensive defensemen in the NHL, and we'll see what he does coming off a Norris Trophy. It should be super exciting. I really like this Vancouver team. I think they are a confirmed Stanley Cup contender. Speaking of Stanley Cup contenders, Frank, the team that represented the Western Conference in the Stanley Cup final last year, they were defeated in the Stanley Cup final by the Florida Panthers in Game 7 by 1 goal. It is the Edmonton Oilers. Frank, we know all about the Edmonton Oilers, one of my favorite teams in the Western Conference right now. They have Connor McDavid, they have Leon Draisaitl, they have Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, 3 mega star centermen that can go on and have 100 points in any given year. McDavid and Draisaitl specifically could be 50 goals, 60 assist men, kind of in their sleep. And then there are some years where they go even above and beyond. McDavid's going to have his 1,000th career point very early into this season. I think he only needs 10 more. He'll probably have it. It's honestly weird. McDavid will be 1,000-point scorer before he turns 28, and it's 3 weeks from now that he'll probably have it. It's really exciting stuff. I think this is one of the most exciting teams in the NHL. Their strength is that they have all these high-end players. Evan Bouchard's on defense. We'll see how he's able to come into this year and provide offense for the team with his clap bomb on the power play. I really like this team. My player to watch for them, I'll go with Jeff Skinner. He's never played a playoff game, and I think he's going to go from playing one playoff game to many. The weakness for the Oilers is that they are waiting for the playoffs to begin basically all season long.
Yeah, I want to touch on Evan Bouchard. I think defense is one of the most important things you can have when claiming a Stanley Cup. That and goaltending. He had career highs in points and power play points last season. 32 points, 25 postseason games. Critical defensive piece for the Oilers that they're really able to heavily rely on. Their strength is their offense. Their offense is their biggest strength. They locked up Leon Draisaitl long term, which means you basically locked up McDavid as well long term. One of the best offenses in the NHL, no doubt. Their goaltending inconsistencies worry me. Every team has them. There were points in the postseason. Skinner really got buried. He nearly finished with the save percentage in the 800s, but he just got it a tick above 900 for the save percentage. And it was part of the reason why they found themselves down 3-0 in the Stanley Cup final, right? Like, if you had Bobrovsky on that team, are they going to go down 3-0? Probably not. But that's what I got for the Oilers.
100%. The Oilers are going to be really, really good this year. I can't wait to watch that wagon. It's going to be so much fun. All right, Frank, quickly go 1 through 8, your order of the teams, and then specify which ones you have in the playoffs. And keep that in mind when we do the Central.
Yep. So my top 4, the first 4 teams I'm going to name are playoff teams. So I got Edmonton winning the division, followed by Vegas, then the Vancouver Canucks, and the surprising team to make the postseason this year. In 4th, got the Seattle Kraken. 5th, Los Angeles Kings. 6th, Calgary Flames. 7th, San Jose Sharks. And the 8th, the Anaheim Ducks.
Very interesting, Frank. I like that prediction with Seattle. I really do. It's possible. It is absolutely. I'm not going to laugh at that the way I laugh at you about your Ovechkin take, or the way we laugh at me about my Penguins take from last year. Like, that is a really, really solid take. I was going to guarantee, I'm sure you even agree, no. Like, out of all your predictions, that's probably the one you're the least confident in. But, like, or one of the least confident in.
Bilesma.
But it's a good one, and go Kraken. I only have 3 teams coming out of the Pacific. I'm going to name 5 from the Central. So I got the division-winning Edmonton Oilers, the Vancouver Canucks, and the Vegas Golden Knights. In 4th, I have, Frank? I have the Seattle Kraken as well coming in 4th. I just don't think they're going to make the playoffs over that 5th Central team. But I think they're going to have a really good year, and they're going to come into the following year excited about the upcoming season. Then I got the Kings coming in 5th. Then I have the Anaheim Ducks. Or no, I'm flipping it right now. I changed my mind at the last second. San Jose Sharks. I think they're going to have a year that surprised some people, and they're going to be fun to watch, and they're going to have some momentum. Do I think there'll be a 5-game losing streak along the way? Yes, and that'll keep them from being like truly in the playoff mix. But yeah, I'm excited about them. Then Anaheim in 6th, in 7th, and then in 8th, I have the Calgary Flames. I think they're going to be in last place and compete for Gavin McKenna, but I don't think they'll be like near the bottom of the league, like, you know, some of the other bottom feeders in the other divisions. But we shall see. All right, Frank, let's really quickly roll through periods 2 and 3, starting with period number 2. All right, Frank, really quick, let's name your 3 most exciting football games this weekend, whether they are college or NFL.
No, now I got to condense. So this is tough, but I'll start.
If you could quickly just name all, if you have written down.
I'll give a synopsis of
Go ahead.
The 3 NFL games. I got Texas at Vikings, because both 2-0 could be exciting. Don't know if the Vikings are going to overperform. 2 would be the Eagles and the Saints. My Saints VP, highest scoring team in the NFL through 2 weeks, and then the 3rd would be the Ravens at the Cowboys. This game is going to tell us a lot about these franchises. College tonight, number 24 Illinois and number 22 Nebraska, 2 ranked teams who are 3-0 battling it out. USC and Michigan should be fun as well. Welcome to the Big Ten, USC. And 3, because NIU is ranked and they've been fun to watch, Buffalo at NIU. Shouldn't be a close game, and NIU should blow them out. But it's going to be exciting to see NIU ranked inside the top 25. Very exciting. Very exciting.
It'll only be – I'm very happy you named that, Frank. I will be there. It'll be it'll be like the 8th or 9th game I've seen NIU ranked, but only the 3rd season in which I've seen them ranked. So I'm very, very excited about that. The three most exciting college games, you named it tonight. Nebraska, Illinois, so excited. If Illinois can pull out a win there, I think they'll be like a contender in the Big Ten for the rest of the season. They won't win the Big Ten over Ohio State or Michigan or anything like that, but really shout out to Illinois. Looking forward to that. Obviously, NIU playing Buffalo. Let's go, Huskies. It's going to be so much fun. I cannot wait for this game. Haven't been this excited about an NIU game in a really, really long time. I'm hearing rumors that it might be the most packed the NIU stands have been since 2013, the last time they were ranked. And I was a college age back then. So, I probably enjoyed that part of it even more than I would right now. I like being alone more now.
They moved up 2 spots in their off week because they were
I know
25. So
isn't that great? Well, that's probably partially because Notre Dame beat the living crap out of Purdue. Yeah. And so go Notre Dame the rest of the season for Husky fans. Seriously. And then the other third game I wanted to mention from college, Tennessee versus Oklahoma tomorrow at 6:30. Boy, can I not wait for that game. Tennessee versus Oklahoma. Let's go. It's going to be so much fun. I think that's must-see football. All right, Frank, in the NFL, I got the Chargers and the Steelers, the battles of the 2-0, the battles of the surprising 2-0s. I think that's going to be really fun to watch. It should be a good time. 49ers, Rams. Are the Rams frauds? Maybe. Are the 49ers frauds? Maybe. They're both super injured, but it could go on to determine what happens a lot of the way the rest of the year in the division. And then one I agree with you on is the Eagles and the Saints. Are the Saints frauds? I don't know. We'll see. I need one more week from them, Frank. I'll start to tiptoe in your direction if the Saints really beat the Eagles. But if the Eagles beat down the Saints and shut them down, then I think, there's a little bit of worry there. But if the Saints win this game and win big, I will tiptoe more towards your side of the ledger. I don't overreact after 2 weeks. I just refuse. But after 3, I start to notice a trend. So we'll see how that goes. All right, Frank, we got some stuff to wrap up in period number 3. Frank, period number 3 with America's favorite podcast segment of the week, Breaking Bets.
Where's my money, bitch?
Frank, Breaking Bets, the floor is yours.
First off, we're going to start off with some NFL football. We got Bears at Colts this Sunday. I think Caleb Williams is going to get his first touchdown pass of the season against the Colts. It's a game you're going to have to win if you're the Chicago Bears. It's not going to be easy. You're going to be on the road with the rookie quarterback. Nothing really has been clicking with the Bears this season. Big chance for the Bears to break through and really show some good signs. I think the Bears get it done and move to 2-1 this Sunday. Bears defense should be able to contain Anthony Richardson and Jonathan Taylor's run game. Chicago Bears money line at plus 105 for 3 units. Love the value there. Second game is also an NFL game. Excited to watch one of your games you touched on. Chargers at the Steelers. I'm going to take the Chargers money line at plus 100 for 2 units. Both of these two teams are 2-0. I think the Steelers are overperforming at the moment. They both like you said, they're both surprise 2-0s, but I think the Steelers more so are a little more surprising. Their defense has been their biggest hero early on in the season. They did win both of their first 2 games on the road, but the Chargers are their toughest opponent they've faced so far. Chargers look good with Harbaugh back coaching. This will also be the toughest matchup for the Chargers. They kind of had 2 pieces of cake through the first 2 weeks. I think this is going to tell us a lot about one of these teams. If one gets blown out or they were overperforming, this game's got a lot on the line for each of these teams. I got a slight lean, like I said, for the Chargers to come away with this one. Chargers money line plus 100 for 2 units. Finally, one MLB game as we're getting to crunch time push for the postseason. Phillies are playing the Mets tonight. I actually like the Mets money line at minus 112, even though they beat the Phillies yesterday in dominant fashion. They won 10-6. That was the 3rd consecutive game the Mets have scored 10 runs in, which is weird. As weird as this sounds, if it was a 3-game series, I'd lean towards the Phillies to win tonight. Because it's a 4-game series, I'm taking the Mets. The Mets bats are hot right now. These 2 teams recently played a series last week, and ironically, these pitchers pitched against each other on September 15th that are going tonight in the same game. How often does that happen close together? Not very often. I expect Peterson to get revenge tonight after the Phillies beat them in a close game last week when these teams played. So I like Phillies money line Mets money line minus 112 bet to win 3 units. That's what I got for you, VP. You're muted.
Was it this year or last year where you picked Detroit to win the division?
This year.
It was this year.
Yeah.
They're going to make – I want them to make it instead of the Twins so bad.
They didn't win the division, but
No, they didn't win the division. That's the Guardians. The Guardians, they're going to go into the playoffs
they
dangerous.
were good, though. I expected them to be good. They're good.
They're the hottest team in baseball right now. Let's go Tigers. Let's go Tigers. I'm rooting for them, Frank. I want them to get in. I want them to get in. I'd rather them get in over the Twins any day of the week as a fan of an AL Central
team. Predictions aren't always stupid.
No, they're not. This one was very good. Go Tigers. We'll see if they're able to get it done. Some NHL housekeeping. Since our last show, Dawson Mercer agrees to a contract extension with the New Jersey Devils. 3 years, $4 million average annual value. He avoids missing the season with New Jersey, at least the start of it. The Chicago Blackhawks named Nick Foligno to be the 35th captain in franchise history, following one of the greatest captains in NHL history, Jonathan Toews. It paves the way for Connor Bedard to be the captain one day down the line. We will see how Chicago plays with Nick Foligno as their captain. The Detroit Red Wings had a big week. They extended Lucas Raymond to an 8-year deal worth $8 million, and he is now their franchise leader as they look to make the playoffs for the first time in a handful of years. And then another contract that happened around the NHL, one of the NHL's Mount Rushmore players, Sidney Crosby, agrees to a contract extension with the Pittsburgh Penguins, and he agreed to a deal, a 2-year extension that will run through 2026-27, his age 40 season, and it will be an average annual value of, you guessed it, $8.7 million. Somebody told Crosby when he was 19 years old that he is only allowed to sign a contract worth $8.7 million. He has been an underpaid player for his entire career, and now he still probably is an underpaid player because we talk about that $10 million or that $1 million per 10 points. That makes him underpaid because he had 94 the year before, or 93 the year before, 94 last year. I wouldn't shock me if he has 100 points this year. I think Crosby's the ageless wonder. He's one of the greatest players ever, and I'm super stoked that he's staying in Pittsburgh. That is where he belongs. Frank, this was an incredible episode 170. I look forward to many, many more. I hope you had fun like I did.
I did have fun. And you know what? We're going to have to start planning a 200 show soon.
We really, really are. And I got big plans.
Happy Year.
Yep. I got really big plans for episode 200. And in 2 Fridays, I'm hoping to have a big show on a Friday too, longer than an hour to kind of get this thing going as we move into the regular season. It'll be right before the Devils play the Buffalo Sabres in Prague. So I'm hoping to lean right into it. I'm going to talk to you and I'm going to talk to Aldo about it off camera. But I hope everybody enjoyed today's episode. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy college football, especially that beautiful Tennessee versus Oklahoma game.
Oof.
That's the most exciting game over any game. I don't care. Over any game and any level. That is the most exciting game this weekend. I absolutely cannot wait. 6:30 p.m. Central on Saturday. The Barroom Network will have plenty of coverage of that and the NFL coverage, including the Chicago Bears as they head to Indy to take on their true neighbors, the Indianapolis Colts. Frank, as always, thank you for listening.